Dylan Mitchell closed his eyes as rain lashed against the window of the cramped apartment overlooking the gray streets of Manchester. He was 13, small for his age, with mop-brown hair and a way of folding his hands that spoke of quiet observation. Inside his chest, though, stormier emotions roared. Grief, shame, confusion. Only 6 months earlier, his small world had shattered when his mother, Claire, died of a sudden seizure. Since then, every day felt drenched in sorrow. The boy who once laughed easily now carried himself like a man weathered by years. He believed he was broken. His father, Mark, tried to reach him. "Let's go for a walk," Mark had said, voice thick with unshed tears. They stepped through puddles cobbled across Manchester's narrow back streets, but Dylan barely spoke. Their silence was heavier than any words. In that dull drift, Dylan, lonely, misunderstood, felt his pain shape him into something inwardly cold. School became a trial. Kids whispered, "Death kid." He heard the name called in corridors. He avoided his family's home in South London when summer came, retreated into headphones, and let loneliness cultivate roots. But then something changed. One September afternoon at a public library, under yellow oak trees shedding the year, he stumbled on an old volume, The Power Within. It had told stories of people, ordinary people, facing tragedies and using the pain as fuel for something greater. He read about Louis Zamperini, Winston Churchill, Malala Yousafzai. Each page burned with life's hardness and resilience. As he turned the final pages, Dylan felt something stir. If those people could rise, why couldn't he? Why couldn't he find his own power? School became his proving ground. He joined the drama club reluctantly, not to perform, but to tell stories. Stories of loss, but also of hope. He wrote short monologues based on Claire's favorite moments. How she danced in the kitchen, sang lullabies, tucked him in, and scolded him when he stayed out too late. He performed them at the term's end, standing center stage before a hall of curious faces. In the harsh spotlight, his throat trembled, but as his voice cracked out the final words, "She taught me that every moment matters," a hush fell. Then tears, some from sorrow, others from a strange joy. In that instant, Dylan realized he had power. Word spread. Teachers saw new confidence. Students gravitated toward him. He volunteered for community theater in Manchester, telling the story of a widow raising a son alone after tragedy. Auditions weren't easy. A girl his age, Jasmine, played his stage mother. They spent evenings rehearsing lines in empty school halls. Jasmine's own tears mirrored his. When they stumbled through a scene, her hand found his. "We'll do it together," she whispered, a friendship kindled. Steady, true. Slowly, pain gave way to companionship. Their laughter after rehearsal spilled into streetlights. Their shared coffees and jokes warmed his numb heart. By spring, the theater production debuted, a modest venue full of town residents. As Dylan stood under the glow, the father's voice faltered, broken with emotion. But he spoke the final line with strength. "Mom, I promise your spirit lives through me." The audience wept. Then stood. Applause thundered. In those minutes, Dylan felt the full circle, from lost boy to empowered storyteller. Yet the story didn't end on applause. The following week, an email. A regional competition for youth stories. Poignant, motivational, 10 to 18 age category. He submitted the monologue. Doubt clawed at him. After all, who would care about one more sad story? But he pressed send. Weeks of waiting. Then came the announcement. Dylan Mitchell had taken first prize. His piece would be performed on a national stage in London. His father wept upon reading it. Jasmine leapt in the air when he called her. Strangers on buses and in shops congratulated him. He, the death kid, had become an inspiration. A train ride to London became a pilgrimage. Together, father and son, they rode under England's green plains, the pain now tempered into pride. The national stage, a minimalist wooden platform in a vast auditorium, felt cold at first. But Dylan stepped forward. He told his story. The darkness, the despair, the choice to keep living for his mother's dream, the power found in tears and in joy. The audience of thousands sat rapt, enraptured by a British-American boy whose voice trembled only with truth. When the final words left his lips, those thousands rose, cheering in unison. Dylan closed his eyes and for the first time felt complete. He had turned his pain into power, his loss into purpose. He returned to Manchester in triumph. His father opened a small business managing the apartment for visiting theater students. Jasmine continued to act beside him. Dylan's story became a workshop tour across schools in the UK and the US, Manchester, London, Edinburgh, Cardiff, and later across the Atlantic to New York, Boston, and Chicago. Teens aged 10-18 listened. Parents wept. Teachers applauded. Stories of hope replaced silence. Describe the day you felt most broken, and then how you rose again, barked countless diaries. One session, a boy asked in a quivering voice, "Will I ever feel normal again after losing someone?" Dylan paused, facing the same mirror he'd once avoided. Then he spoke. "Broken doesn't mean destroyed. It means you need to rebuild. With purpose. With someone beside you. With laughter again." You could have heard a pin drop, then applause. Sometimes he still missed Claire. Sometimes tears came. But now he cried openly, on stage, in cafes and bookstores. Because he had learned something vital. The tears are part of the power. And that authenticity, sadness laced with hope, made his message unforgettable. 10 years later, Dylan stood in a Chicago auditorium addressing a hall of teens and 20-somethings. Among them sat children from the UK, studying abroad, nodding in recognition. He said, "Your pain isn't your story's end. It's the split in your shell. Wait for the power that bursts out." Cheers followed. Later, a teen girl with red-rimmed eyes said, "Your story saved me." Dylan knelt down. "Then live," he answered. "Let it inspire you to use your story." He hugged her. On the train home, he glanced at photos of Claire on his phone. She smiled in one tousled hair, windblown on Brighton Pier. He tapped the screen. "Thanks, Mum." He knew that wherever she was, she nodded. He had done her proud.